Furnitures Limited. Local manufacturers of quality office furniture and dealers in quality office equipment like fireproof safes and cabinets. For orders, visit our showroom at Uniafric House, Koinange Land off Koinange Street.
Every day, you hear news reports about routine immunization across Kenya. Once pregnancy is confirmed, a mother is recommended to visit the health facility for tetanus toxoid vaccination. As soon as a child is born, a child receives a birth dose of oral polio and BCG. At 6, 10, and 14 weeks of age, a child is to receive polio vaccine drops, pentavalent vaccine on the left thigh, PCV10 vaccine and rotavirus vaccine, and at 14 weeks, IPV on the right thigh. In addition, a child is recommended for yellow fever vaccine in some select counties. In malaria endemic sub-counties, a child will receive malaria vaccine at 6 months, 7 months, 9 months, and 24 months. At 18 months, a child receives measles rubella vaccine. At 10 to 14 years of age, a girl child is supposed to receive 2 doses of HPV vaccine 6 months apart. All adults of age 15 years and above are recommended to receive COVID-19 vaccines. Make every immunization visit count. Make a visit now to your nearest health facility. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and UNICEF.
Well, it's the 17th day of January 2022. The time, 9 p.m. East African. Good evening, my name is Mboya.
My name is Purity Museo. Welcome to Prime Edition this Monday night. Susan Thuku is our sign language interpreter tonight.
This week on your weekly program, The Cabinet, we shine a light on the late Mboya and how the assassin's bullet cut short his life, aged only 39. That coming up, but first, our headline stories.
Kenya is ready to establish a diplomatic mission in Budapest at the earliest opportunity.
Cementing 58 years of brotherhood, Kenya and Hungary signed bilateral agreements as President Kenyatta hosts visiting Hungarian president.
Gearing up for the August 9th general election, IBC kicks off another round of mass voter registration exercise.
This has been a consultative meeting between governors and the fifth, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, to reassure him of our support and also to discuss the way forward with regard to the August elections.
And standing by RAILA, a group of governors endorse ODM leader terming Deputy President a threat to devolution. Well, it's a cold night right here in capital city Nairobi, Kenya, but we want to warmly welcome you to this live broadcast.
And Cynthia Nyamai will be joining us later on with the day's business. Karen Kibet is also on standby with the sports news at Purity_Museo channel, KBC Channel 1 News at Mboya 24. The hashtag to use is Prime Edition.
Let's get straight to our top story tonight. President Uhuru Kenyatta has said that Kenya is now ready to establish a diplomatic mission in Budapest, Hungary's capital city. President Kenyatta spoke at State House, Nairobi, after holding bilateral talks with the visiting Hungarian President Jados Adair.
In the meeting, 4 agreements, which included cooperation in health, water, education, and diplomatic sectors, was signed. Kamche Menza reports.
State House meeting, Kenya and Hungary signed a number of bilateral treaties which include health that covers human resource capacity building, information sharing and prevention of diseases including COVID-19. Kenya and Hungary also signed a memorandum of understanding on diplomatic training and information exchange that will see the two countries collaborate in the training of diplomats. While the agreement on water covers wastewater management, among other related aspects. At a joint press conference address shortly after witnessing the signing of the agreements, President Kenyatta hailed Hungary as one of Kenya's strongest bilateral partners in Europe, saying the country was the 6th foreign nation to set up diplomatic presence in Kenya in 1964. To cement the strong bilateral ties crafted over the last 5 decades and fulfill its strategic desire to have more presence in Central and Eastern Europe, President Kenyatta announced Kenya's plan to set up a diplomatic mission in Budapest.
It is our desire to have a greater presence in Central and Eastern Europe, and I'm glad to announce today that Kenya is ready to establish a diplomatic mission in Budapest at the earliest opportunity.
The head of state hailed his Hungarian counterpart for his government's decision to double the number of scholarships offered to Kenyan students, saying the decision will further deepen the Kenyan-Hungary bilateral ties.
The Hungarian government scholarships that have been given to Kenyan students annually will be increased from the current 100 to 200 opportunities. And we thank you, Mr. President, and your administration for this very kind gesture.
És őszintén remélem, hogy mire
I sincerely hope that by the time these young people graduate in Hungary, you will have implemented, Mr. President, all those different projects that we discussed.
Amikről elnök úrral beszéltünk.
On trade and investment cooperation, President Kenyatta said Kenya's desire was to see more private sector involvement and thanked the Hungarian government for a $50 million support given to the country's health, agriculture, education and water sectors.
Ezért elnök úrral
During our meetings with the President had quite detailed discussions on the possibility of cooperation, to which we are both open in terms of plant cultivation, plant production, animal husbandry and food processing, food production.
Az együttműködésre.
As a key member of the United Nations Security Council, Kenya is once again counting on the support of Hungary to unlock the economic partnership agreement between the East African community and the European Union.
President Yedos Ade is in the country for 4 days, making history as the first Hungarian president to visit Kenya. It is a visit that is set to further strengthen the warm and strong bilateral ties the two countries have built for years, with Kenya set to continue benefiting from, among many other projects, the scholarship opportunities. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition at State House.
Now, while Kenya and Hungary held bilateral talks, poor turnout characterized the first day of the last mass voter registration exercise ahead of the August 9th general election. Here in Nairobi, for instance, a section of registration centers, believe it or not, had only one person turning up for the exercise by Monday in the afternoon. The exercise will end on the 6th of February.
Day one of the second phase of the enhanced continuous voter registration exercise at Moi Avenue in Nairobi County. Midday and Griffins Onsare is the only Kenyan registered as a voter from this center.
Sijai vote maisha yangu yote. This is my first time. Kutoka kitambo Kenyans wanapenda kufanya vitu last minute. Now, wakati tu watasema deadline ni siku fulani, 1 month ama 1 week iishe. Siku hiyo sasa utapata laini zimefika Kenya Poli.
In Gara area of Nairobi County, no one had turned up to register as a voter by midday. In Kibra constituency, only a few Kenyans showed up by 3 p.m.
Nimeona kupiga hii kura, singechelewa. Jidi mwaka nilikuwa nangoja 2022.
However, for Gladys Ayuma, there is still time to weigh on when to register as a voter.
Nitachukua.
In Kiambu County, Kiamba constituency, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission increased biometric voter registration system equipment to speed the exercise for eligible Kenyans to register as voters.
Double allocation of kits from 3 to 6 per ward. And we've also been added the number of days from 21 to 30.
Wakaaji wa huku kwetu Kiamba tumezunguka, tumeona wamejaribu, wameanza kuamka. Tumeambia wasikimbie ile wakati ambapo IBC wanafunga hiyo nafasi.
Kiambu County Monday also witnessed low turnout from Kenyans interested to register as voters.
Tunataka kuhimiza vijana watokee, wale wamepoteza vitambulisho. Vitambulisho ziko nyingi sana huko chini.
In Moranga, a section of leaders urged locals to exercise their democratic right and have a voter's card ahead of the August 9th general election.
We are going to regenerate the initiative of voter registration.
IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati says the second phase of the exercise will come to a close on the 6th of February 2022 for citizens in Kenya, while Kenyans abroad will start the registration exercise from the 21st of this month to February 6th, 2022.
The 17th of January 2022 marks the beginning of the second and final phase of the enhanced continuous voter registration exercise.
In the Coast region, the area's IEBC Deputy Director Agri Masai says they are hoping to receive 30,000 new applications during the first 8 days.
We are expecting around 75,000 new ID cards that had not been delivered to us from Nairobi.
IEBC expects 4.5 million Kenyans to be registered as voters before the close of the second phase exercise. This as they remind Kenyans of their constitutional right to be registered voters ahead of the next general election. Though with the low turnout on day one, how many Kenyans would have registered before the close of business? Irene Mchuma Odim, Prime Edition.
And the push by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to become the 5th president of the country has received a major boost after 30 governors backed his presidential bid on Monday. The governors met Raila under Azimio la Umoja in Naivasha and agreed Raila is the only presidential candidate who has guaranteed safety of devolution.
Azimio la Umoja movement leader Raila Odinga held consultations with 30 governors in Naivasha as he continues to seek partners in the quest for presidency.
This has been a consultative meeting between governors and the 5th, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, to reassure him of our support and also to discuss the way forward with regard to the August elections.
The governors vowed they would mobilize their resources and manpower to carry the ODM leader to presidency. Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibona, who had announced his intention to vie for the top seat, shelved the idea in support of Raila.
I consulted my people in Makueni on Thursday. We had a meeting from the entire county of our leadership, and they gave me the go-ahead to support Azimio through Muungano party.
The county bosses took a swipe at DP William Ruto, alleging that he is the biggest threat to devolution.
Pango mmoja wa William Ruto ni kupiga vita ugatuzi. Na hii ndio sababu umeona magavana wasopungua 30 na wasokuwa hapa wamekuja kwa baba kwa hakikisho kwamba devolution is here to stay.
There is one person who over the years never supported the constitution. Not when we tried in 2005, not when we did it in 2010, and even now when we wanted to amend it in 2021. I mean, somebody must forever be always wanting to do things that are not right for this country.
Raila Odinga noted that devolution is central to Kenya's development.
Na kila mtu anakubali siku hizi ati tangu tulete ugatuzi, hali ya maisha ya watu wetu huko mashinani imeboreshwa. And the aim of the BBI was to improve our governance structure. Sisi tuelekea Canaan, wataka kurudisha sisi Misri. Tunasema la, mpaka tuendelee mbele.
The ODM leader also challenged the youths to register themselves as voters. Geshoke Washira, Prime Edition.
Now, the Attorney General is protesting the time he has been allocated to argue his appeal against the BBI bill at the Supreme Court. The AG says that he is the main appellant in the appeal, yet the respondents have been allocated a combined time of 6 hours. The Supreme Court will commence the hearing of 3 consolidated petitions on BBI bill from Tuesday for 3 consecutive days.
The final legal battle for the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2021, also known as the Building Bridges Initiative, kicks off on Tuesday the 18th before a 7-judge bench at the Supreme Court. The hearing is scheduled to run for 3 days consecutively to Thursday the 20th of January. The 3 consolidated petitions of the Attorney General, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and Morara Omoke are contesting the ruling by the High Court, which was upheld at the Court of Appeal. But even before the hearing kicks off, the Attorney General is contesting the time allocated to the involved parties.
We've been given 45 minutes, especially those who are the key parties in this case. It may not be enough, but if the court takes the position that that is the time that is enough to hear our arguments, I'm willing to work within that time, because you do not fight with the courts. If they want to hear you for 45 minutes, that's what you work with. But if they give more time again, we'll still work within the time provided.
The Attorney General further says, in view of the complexity of the matters to be addressed in the appeal and taking into consideration the number of counsels he'll be relying on, the appellants shall be allocated 6 hours combined, and as the main appellant, he'll be given 1 hour 45 minutes. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
In Naivasha, the government has completed connecting the new standard gauge railway with the newly refurbished old meter gauge railway in Naivasha Inland Container Depot, ICD, in a bid to ease transportation of cargo from Mombasa to Malaba and other parts of the country, as well as beyond the borders. Speaking after commissioning the operation of the facility in Naivasha, Kenya Railways Managing Director Philip Mainga said the launch will make transportation by rail more effective and affordable. Timothy Kipnusu with the details.
It's now official the Naivasha Inland Container Depot will be a transshipment hub for Africa's cargo. Speaking after commissioning the facility in Naivasha, Kenya Railways Managing Director Philip Mainga says the new SGR linked with the old colonial MGR shows how old and new technology can be used to make nationwide transportation much more effective.
These meter gauge lines are connected from here all the way to Malaba and Kampala. So what will be happening here, instead of loading the cargo on the ground, the cargo will be seamlessly transferred from one facility to the other, from one rail to the other, without touching the ground.
He further revealed that traders will save over 120,000 per container if they choose to use rail over road to transport cargo from Mombasa to Malaba.
We have reviewed our prices, our tariffs. It used to take us almost about 2,000 and something US dollars all the way to the border. We have reviewed our prices for 20 feet container, which you will see here. We'll be charging about 860 US dollars. That is about 86,000 compared to about 200,000 before.
He said for the first time in 120 years, Kenya has managed to cut rail travel time of cargo between Mombasa and Malaba by a whole 2 days.
So when you look at the total journey from Mombasa to Kampala, it could be around 36 hours. What we are saying for our cargo earlier on, when we were using the meter gauge, our own meter gauge, we were taking almost 3 days to reach Malaba, 3 to 4 days. We have cut down that to 1 day. That is about 28 hours. We have also reduced the distance to Kampala by almost from 7 days to about now to 36 hours.
Kenya will have the second fastest railway link from border to border in sub-Saharan Africa.
Basically, what is happening here is we are picking cargo from SGR by a rich truck, loading on a tractor, and then transferring the same to MGR line.
The launch of the facility comes less than a week after President Uhuru Kenyatta, alongside Uganda's Chief of Defense Forces General David Rukabuk, inspected the facility. Kenya has indeed made huge strides in the transport sector after fusing the new standard gauge railway and the old meter gauge railway, making transportation of cargo from Mombasa to Malaba much cheaper by 56%. Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition, Naivasha.
Well, that report on the seamless cargo transport right here in Kenya brings us to our first break on KBC Prime.
Keep talking to us. We are live on all our social media platforms, and you can tweet us at KBC Channel 1. Use the hashtag Prime Edition. Stay with us.
We'll be back.
Beacon Furnitures Limited. We're local manufacturers of quality office furniture, dealers in quality office equipment like fireproof safes and cabinets. Our automated state-of-the-art factories at Henna House along Enterprise Road in Nairobi's industrial area. Our showroom is at Uniafric House, Koinange Lane off Koinange Street. We are passionate believers in locally manufactured goods. When you and I buy locally made furniture, we impact on the livelihoods of our brothers and sisters. For orders, visit our showroom at Uniafric House, Koinange Lane off Koinange Street. Beacon Furnitures Limited. Jenga Kenya, tupate ajira.
Is singing that song, so anaimba alafu include some rap in there, just praising the Lord, and I can't wait for this song to be out because it's gonna be a fire song. Gospel artist, Now Kanye West might be facing a 6-month imprisonment. This is after he had an altercation with a fan and he punched the fan on the face.
You know, people always say that they get too big to go to a battle, or they get too big to cypher on TV.
On this album, Fioke stretches the storyline from his array of commercially successful singles, such as Sweetest Thing featuring Rick Hassani, to Like featuring Ricardo Banks and Tiwa Savage.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
There you are. Let's now move into the space of politics. Wiper Party leader Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka has reached out to Meru County Governor Kiraitu Murungi's Devolution Empowerment Party for a possible coalition. Kalonzo says his party is looking to build a winning alliance ahead of the August general election. But in a rejoinder, Governor Kiraitu said that his party will support a presidential candidate who will address the interests of the Meru community.
Young leaders say the voter apathy has led to the election of bad leadership, calling on their fellow youth to register as voters.
We need to move away from making noise and start making voices. That is so easy to assign blame and say IEBC failed. But you as a young person, have you taken responsibility to ensure that your peers and also those people that you claim to lead have actually been mobilized and have been told where these centers are, and we come up with we can craft a voter mobilization strategy that will ensure that all these young people, the 4.5 million young people who are remaining, who are out of the voter register, are actually registered as voters and participate in decision making of this country.
The reason for voting is because we believe bad leaders are elected by people who don't vote, because that is a silent vote which could have actually put the right person in place. I know maybe the youth are feeling that there is no hope. There is hope. In fact, we have more youth leaders coming out. The moment you're going to support your fellow youth is by you taking up the vote.
Nairobi Senator Johnston Sakaja challenged the youth not to be used to cause chaos during the campaigns and instead choose to be peace drivers.
Let us remember that there is nothing more powerful than a generation that is in tune with its season and its cause. A generation that knows why it exists. Let us make this movement, because I see this as a movement, not just a caucus. Let it be more than just about us and positions we're going for, but about what our generation and our country truly needs. And I promise you, if we do that, our victory will be inevitable.
Meanwhile, a section of leaders from the United Democratic Alliance UDA want the government to investigate chaos that marred the party's rallies in Jacaranda, Nairobi County, Kisumu and Kitale regions. UDA is accusing its rivals of planning the disruption in a bid to protect their political turfs.
Tunataka kuona hao watu wamekamatwa na kuwekwa ndani na kushtakiwa na sheria kuchukuliwa, kwa sababu ni kulingana na katiba na uhuru wa kila mwananchi katika taifa letu kutembea katika pembe yoyote ya nchi yetu, kuuza sera yake ya kisiasa na kuruhusiwa kufanya hivyo bila kushambuliwa au kudharauliwa au kutukanwa na mtu yeyote.
To health matters, leading scientists in the country are decrying poor funding for research and development, saying sad state of affairs could negatively impact on the development of the country as well as the overall welfare of citizens. The scientist who spoke during the COVID-19 pre-grant conference in Nairobi said it was a shame to always depend on donors who in most cases fund their own area of interest. Here is that report. The National Research Fund NRF is funding tens of scientists in the country to develop evidence-based natural medicinal products to mitigate COVID-19 disease. The over 131 million shillings will be divided among 4 different consortiums on a need basis.
The first consortium was to look on matters of biotechnology research and clinical trials. And the budget awarded to that consortium was about 43 million. The second consortium was to look at drug development and trials aspects. And the consortium was awarded 50 million based on the budget and the various objectives they presented. We had another group that was looking at psychosocial effects, which was awarded 18 million, thereabout. And lastly, but not the least, COVID-19 Preventive Consortia, which was also awarded 18 million.
Scientists have now pieced together substantial information about COVID-19, and as a result, more targeted research is essential to mitigate the adverse effects of the disease.
During the launch of the COVID-19 pre-grant conference in Nairobi, scientists raised concerns of underfunding in the research and innovation sector in the country.
African governments committed to putting aside 2% of their GDP. And I think it's only South Africa and Tanzania that have been able to do 1%. Kenya, we started on very well. And we were doing something like 0.3%, 0.5%, not of GDP, but of the budget.
They took issues with over-reliance on international donor funding, which they claim is dragging the country and the continent at large backward.
It's up to us as researchers to redeem ourselves and to show the relevance of science. Anybody who thought that science is not important now knows.
The chairperson of the Education Committee in the National Assembly, Florence Mutua, saying that Africa can develop faster if governments allocate reasonable funds to science and innovation.
There's a time we gave NRF money and it was removed by Treasury. We must say it here, because I don't know who in Treasury would assume that research is not important in this country and remove money that has been allocated to research.
To support pooling of research efforts and resources to respond to the crisis.
Our country is rich in natural products, and we are going to make use of what we have in the country so that we can find a solution for COVID-19.
The scientists are hoping to use the funds to find lasting solutions to the stubborn COVID-19 disease.
Let's now look at the COVID situation in the country. Kenya has recorded 223 new COVID-19 cases from a sample size of 3,456 tested over the last 24 hours. The positivity rate now stands at 6.5. 11 patients have succumbed to the disease, all of them being late deaths reported after conducting facility record audits in the month of January 2022. 900 patients have recovered from the disease, 759 from the home-based isolation and care program, while 141 are from various health facilities across the nation. A total of 11 million vaccines have been administered across the country. Of these, 6.2 million people are partially vaccinated, while those fully vaccinated stand at 4.7 million people. 30,351 doses have been administered to those between 15 and 18 years, while 90,334 are booster doses. The humanitarian crisis is looming due to the ongoing insecurity in parts of Baringo County as affected people flee from their homes. In Mboya, that's in Mochongoi Ward, Baringo South, hundreds of families have fled their homes after one person was killed and burnt to ashes by suspected bandits. Residents are taking cover at Kapchercher.
The current security lapse in Baringo has forced hundreds of residents to abandon their homes. In Baringo North, 2 people were killed at Kesumet, Batabwa Road last week, with residents from over 300 households who fled, calling upon the government to provide food and other basic amenities.
It's a drought period. There are communities competing for resources like pasture and water.
Baringo Deputy Governor Jacob Chepkwony called on humanitarian agencies to come to the aid of those affected in the county.
We shall be able to supply food. I will ask our partners like Kenya Red Cross so that we can get some non-food items. I will also call upon other partners to come on board so that we can really reach out to those who have been affected.
Chepkwony says the county government has already dispatched a response team to affected areas to ascertain the severity of the situation.
The team will go to Saimosoi tomorrow, to the area of Kakir, Yati and Ngaratuko, where families have been displaced because of the insecurity. So I want to ask our communities or who are bordering each other to really maintain peace and tolerate one another.
For Prime Edition, I'm Ben Troinjua.
The Kenya Forest Service is calling on Parliament to throw out an amendment seeking to repeal Section 34(2) of the Forest Conservation and Management Act of 2016. KFS Board Chair Peter Kinyua says deleting the section will expose forests to wanton destruction and put undue pressure on Kenya's water towers.
The Forest Conservation and Management Amendment Bill seeks to enable Parliament bypass the Kenya Forest Service in the variation of boundaries of a public forest. If passed, the Kenya Forest Service will be reduced to a mere spectator in the revocation of the registration of public forests or portions of public forests. The current law requires Kenya Forest Service to make technical recommendations to Parliament on the effects of any proposed forest boundary variation or excision on endangered, rare and threatened species and ecological sensitive areas. Kenya Forest Service Board Chairman Peter Kinyo says removing Section 34.2 of the Kenya Forest Conservation and Management Act will reverse the gains made over the past 15 years in restoring Kenya's public forest and water catchment areas. The bill is lined up for debate in the National Assembly. For Prime Edition, I'm Michael Mondiga.
Now, the assassin bullet ended his life when he was only 39. But Mboya's life was rich in terms of his political achievement. On our regular Monday segment, The Cabinet, Jackie Wambiru focuses on the late Mboya who served in the cabinet of the founding father, President Jomo Kenyatta.
3 years and later merged with KANU in 1960. Mboya became the first Secretary General of KANU. In 1962, Mboya attended the Second Lancaster House Conference. The conference was to draft a constitution for independent Kenya. He was appointed to chair the committee in charge of drafting KANU's view at the conference. He served in the cabinet in 1962 when he was appointed Minister for Labour in the coalition government of KANU and KADU. In this capacity, he drew up the Labour Relations Charter to regulate the relations between employers and employees. In 1963, he was appointed Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs and was involved in the constitutional amendments which made Kenya a republic in 1964. In 1964, Mboya was appointed Minister for Planning and Economic Development. He drafted and published the sessional paper number 10 of 1965 on African socialism and its application to planning in Kenya, which was the basis of Kenya's economic development.
Will you press for the release of Jomo Kenyatta?
Certainly, yes. How? Again, by intensifying our efforts and more pressure on the British government and also the Kenya government, and using whatever influences we've gained from this present constitution for further efforts to secure his release.
Mboya also produced the 1966 to 1970 development plan for Kenya. As Secretary General of KANU, Mboya organized the Limuru Conference of March 1966, which resolved the conflict between radicals and moderates in KANU through fresh elections in the party. This meeting resolved to abolish the position of Vice President and replaced it with 7 Vice Presidents, 1 from each of the 6 regions and 1 for Nairobi, with the purpose of removing Jaramogi Oginga Odinga from the post of Vice President of the party. Mboya is known for organizing the famous student airlift, which boosted education in Kenya through his contact with John F. Kennedy, who later became the US President. In 1963, he published an autobiography, Freedom and After, in which he expressed great optimism for the future of Kenya. On 5th July 1969, Mboya was shot dead outside a chemist on Nairobi's Government Road, now Moi.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
Oh, there you go again with Santi, Letitia. I told you you're not good enough for him.
Tell that to my heart, Mama, because my heart is not listening.
That's why I'm here to ask you, sir. Give me a chance in your company.
Oh, it's been such a long time.
Oh, my dear, you're so beautiful.
And those are Demians asking for a job.
You see? I told you so. I told you we had a reason to be worried.
Will you just shut up?
And for all, why don't you tell me what you're planning? It looks like you are doing everything you can to make sure that she gets involved with him.
Now there's a hotel standing there. How can those people do this? Who gave them the right?
Oh, I swear I have no idea.
Lying heart.
veneno y la ambición.
Welcome to Business. I am Cynthia Nyamai. The Democratic Republic of Congo is likely to be admitted in the East African Community next month. The EAC Secretariat says it will finalize the recommendations on the ratification process in the next few days. Rioba has the details.
The Democratic Republic of Congo is remaining with just one step before being admitted to the East Africa Community. The admission of the minority nation to the EAC bloc was to be finalized late last year, but the bloc's head of state recommended extended talks to iron out some issues such as trade tariffs and market protocols. However, the EAC Secretariat says it expects to complete the harmonization of the rules in the next 10 days, paving the way for admission of the DRC into the regional bloc in a month.
This negotiation team is going to finish it within the next 10 days, and they will come out with a report that would be submitted to the Council of Ministers that would either say, yeah, we have agreed on processing going on this way, or we have disagreed.
However, the EAC Secretariat say infrastructure development and conflict in parts of Eastern DRC are still a major concern and may affect trade.
Na hili ni kikao cha negotiators. Negotiation process imeanza na sasa hivi wakianza ukimaliza baada ya wiki moja ilo report litaenda kwa baraza la mawaziri, alafu marais wenyewe wataiketi waiangalie na rasmi wailete DRC katika jumuiya.
In a bid to facilitate trade, Kenya and Uganda have resolved to clear the traffic snarl-up at Malaba and Busia post within 2 days.
To relook at the whole protocol of testing truck drivers and citizens crossing the borders, and that work is ongoing, and hopefully we should be able to come up with a mutually agreed program amongst ministers of health of East Africa to make sure that we don't have those kind of backlogs again.
Last month, Uganda introduced a mandatory COVID-19 testing for truck drivers entering the country that it abolished last week after intervention by EAC and protest by transporters. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now to technology, where COVID-19 has driven up demand for electronics as those working from home seek to make their homes more hospitable. The LG Electronics content manager William Kamore says people consider technology, capacity and energy consumption when buying electronics.
As authorities recommended restrictions in movement and work from home options in efforts to contain the spread of coronavirus, uptake of electronics grew as people were forced to buy gadgets to make their lives more comfortable. This was due to people seeking to improve their lifestyles as they spent more hours at home, opting to ease house chores, reduce costs, and for their convenience.
We were able to narrow down to what consumers wanted in terms of a washing machine. So in terms of capacity, in terms of dimensions, in terms of color, in terms of hygiene, in terms of durability. So once the washing machines came into the market and the customers came across the washing machines, they didn't find any other reason not to purchase these washing machines.
Kamore says the growing uptake of washing machines, which is no longer considered a luxury item, is due to lifestyle changes, hygiene and lower costs when compared to hiring someone to do laundry.
The benefits of having a washing machine than washing with your own hands is because, you see, if using a washing machine, like a front-load washing machine, it's able to use using steam. You know, steam is effective in removing allergens that may affect your skin. They also may affect your respiratory system.
Uptake of laundromat services is also steadily rising, especially in urban settings, offering a quick solution to individuals who opt to drop dirty laundry for cleaning and pick it up after a specified time, allowing them to spend their time on other activities.
Convenience and hygiene because you see the clothes are being taken care of by a machine, and they are well kept and they are well washed, and then they're delivered back to you. And so you can drop in your clothes, they get washed, and for you they have their own special services like free pickup, delivery, and all that.
With an increasing uptake in the Kenyan market and an improvement in technology, could this be a solution for people who want to take charge of their domestic affairs? Reporting for Prime Edition, my name is Ibak Said.
The Insurance Regulatory Authority is urging farmers to take up crop and livestock insurance as cover risks occasioned by erratic weather. The regulator notes that uptake of insurance by small-scale farmers was slow despite being the mostly affected. Details of this and other stories in our corporate briefs.
By last month, at least 1.4 million head of cattle had been lost due to drought that had been reported in parts of the country, while the number of people in need of food aid was 2.8 million.
Mfugo zinaisha, kurudi kwao. Zile mbuzi ambazo zilitoka hapa asubuhi kwenda kutafuta malisho, kurudi ni saa 4 usiku. Na wakati ilitoka hapa pengine asubuhi zilikuwa 20. Hatujui kwamba 15 ndio itarudi ama ni 10 itarudi.
The situation, according to a report from the National Drought Management Authority, is getting critical as erratic weather patterns become more frequent.
Bima ya mifugo pia inalingana. Ni mifugo aina gani? Wako katika hali gani? Hiyo mifugo imewekwa namna gani? Na pia italingana ni hiyo bima ya mifugo inafaa ifidie. So hiyo yote inaandikwa na mnakubaliana wewe kama mteja na kampuni ndio bima sasa ikuwe activated.
To address this, the Insurance Regulatory Authority is urging farmers to take up crop and livestock insurance. The regulator notes that erratic weather conditions and increased awareness on available insurance products is steadily driving uptake of crop and livestock insurance among smallholder farmers.
Kuna wakulima wengi sana ambao wako na bima ya mifugo. Wengi wakulima wa mimea, wakulima wa mifugo. Nao na wamechukua bima na kuna wenye wamefidiwa tena kwa wingi sana. Kwa hivyo ndio kuambia tu wengine wale wakulima wengine tafadhali waweze kutembelea kampuni za bima na waweze kununua bima.
Crop insurance for long has been a preserve of large-scale farmers. The government plans to roll out an insurance scheme in which farmers will be compensated to afford feeds for their animals during drought.
More than half of Kenya's wealthiest individuals have reset their priorities to improving their health and setting aside funds for their children's future. According to Standard Chartered's latest Wealthy Expectancy report, COVID-19 prompted the affluent to be more future-focused, with 96% of them having reset their life goals following the pandemic.
The European Commission, in its Sub-Saharan Economic Review findings in April to June 2020, indicated that COVID-19 interferences led to close to zero economic growth for the year. This means that Kenya's wealthy suffered reduction in economic activity in, among others, labor productivity and export commodities.
This is very important because post-COVID, clients have actually looked at themselves and said, what do I need to do to actually change the way I manage my money?
At the same time, for 59% of respondents for the Standard Chartered Bank's latest Wealth Expectancy report, COVID-19 diminished their confidence in their finances, preventing them from taking the actions necessary to achieve their new goals.
What are the things that triggered you to make changes in terms of how you manage your finances? And a number of things came up here. One is that clients generally observed that the traditional investing that they had been doing or how they were earning their money actually was impacted by COVID-19. It could have been employment or their business. Secondly, they found that there were more volatility, so more uncertainty in terms of how this income was coming. So they want a little bit of stability and maybe a second source of income. And then obviously the cost, the spend changed. So clients started spending more money in healthcare.
To meet these new goals, experts say the wealthy have new strategies to grow their wealth, which often involves more proactive investments rather than just saving cash. In the Standard Chartered report, 68% chose to manage or improve the home and immediate surroundings, with 66% focusing on accumulating wealth. 96% set new financial goals in the last 18 months. The average number of new goals set for each individual was 5.3 goals. 98% of people took at least one action relating to their finances last year. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
Well, that's it for business. Up next, sports with Karen Kibet.
Our connection with you runs deep, and just like you treasure your New Year resolutions, we highly value your sports needs. We are off to Germany for the DFB Pokal 2021-2022 round of 16. The match to look forward to is FC St. Pauli versus Borussia Dortmund, slated for Tuesday 18th of January 2022 at 10:45 p.m. FC St. Pauli have reached the round of 16 for the first time in 16 years, whereas Borussia Dortmund won the DFB Pokal for the 5th time last season. Catch this tie live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. I do hope you're holding up well. It's now time for us to take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, the chairperson of the Gender Welfare in Sports Committee, Catherine Dereba, said that unwarranted brokers and coaches are major perpetrators of sexual and emotional abuse of athletes. The remarks were made on the first day of the ongoing AGNES TIROP conference in Diani, Kwale County.
The 3 days AGNES TIROP conference being held in honor of the late cross-country champion who was brutally murdered in her home in Iten, Nandi County, has attracted Kenya athletes, federation officials, team managers, coaches, leadership of the judiciary to discuss the issues of gender equality and gender-based violence in the sports sector. Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed said that the government is committed to eliminating gender-based violence within the sports sector in the country.
It's actually a solemn duty as sports stakeholders and leaders in positions of influence to hold hands, to put our heads together and figure out how we can end this menace. Ultimately, when the dust settles and the chips fall, we shall not be judged by what we wanted to achieve, but what we actually achieved in the quest for equity in sports.
Sentiments echoed by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who delivered his address in a pre-recorded video where he said that his administration has allocated adequate resources to GBV Response Initiative. Celebrated marathoner Catherine Dereba broke down to tears as she recounted the confessions from female athletes on gender-based violence. She noted that unwarranted brokers and coaches are major perpetrators of sexual and emotional abuse of athletes.
The exploitation of sports women and girls has been long tolerated within the sports industry. There have been unwarranted brokers who, under the guise of marriage, taken advantage of naive athletes. Excuse me. The recent death of AGNES TIROP, a celebrated top athlete, has reminded us of the need for collaboration between relevant stakeholders to mitigate gender-based violence.
She noted the need for gender inclusivity in the sports sector to promote equity and equality and protect
athletes from physical and emotional abuse.
The report has wide-ranging recommendations that we feel if are implemented, we can save many lives, but most important, create a conducive sports environment that levels the playing field and promotes inclusivity.
The 12th leg of the World Cross Country Tour, set to be held in Eldoret next month, has been named after AGNES TIROP in honor of the 2015 World Cross Country Women's Champion. For Sports News from Diani, Kwale County, I am Ann Mburu.
Thank you, Anne, for that report. Moving on, the second edition of the Mount Kenya Run will be held on 26th of next month. The event will be used to raise funds to support the fight against cancer and boost environmental conservation and promote the region's tourism.
According to Meru Governor Kiraitu Murugi, they are targeting to raise over 20 million shillings to be channeled towards environmental conservation and the fight against cancer through construction and upgrading of cancer facilities in the county.
We can see if Baba can also run that 12 kilometers and then say yes, he has climbed the mountain. And I agree with what Governor is saying. The mountain belongs to us. But we want people to climb the mountain and see the beauty and tell us they've been at the mountain top.
Former Gatanga MP Peter Kenneth reiterated his commitment towards the noble cause with a pledge of his contribution of 500,000 shillings towards next month's championships.
The purpose of the Mountain Running Championship, which is an international event, is to bring more visibility and more tourism to Meru County, especially mountain tourism. We are running for two purposes. First, we said we want to raise funds to support the Cancer Institute in Meru, and we are so happy we are doing so well about it right now.
To thank AK for taking interest and encourage you to continue going to other counties as well so that we can develop talent, because running and sports can also create huge employment opportunities for people who are dedicated to them.
Registration fee will be 1,000 shillings, with winners for the 8 kilometers loop in Mount Kenya set to be awarded 500,000 shillings for both senior men and women.
Thank you, Moki, for that report. Moving on, over 40 teams are taking part in the second edition of the Dagoretti Super Cup tournament, which is aimed at nurturing talents among the youth. Kilimani, Kileleshwa, Gatina, Kawangware and Kabira wards are each represented by 5 teams, with a champion from each ward set for a playoff to determine the overall champions of Dagoretti constituency, who will walk away with cash prizes and a trophy later next month. The organizer of the tournament, Nora Bosibori, emphasized on the need of supporting the youth through talent tapping initiatives. The finals are set to culminate next month.
To show that we can do it in Inawezekana, and if we put our hands together and work together with FKF, we can be able to do something bigger so that we help our youth who are really just hopeless. Some of them have huge talents, they have not been scouted, they have not been recognized.
Now to matters AFCON, defending champions Algeria is on the verge of being eliminated for this year's Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon after being beaten 1-0 by Equatorial Guinea in Group E match played in Douala Stadium last evening. Meanwhile, Group A matches conclude tonight, with hosts Cameroon facing Cape Verde while Ethiopia take on Burkina Faso.
The shock Group E loss had left Algeria bottom of the standings and needing a win in their last Group E match against Ivory Coast on Thursday to stand any chance of advancing. Elsewhere, host Cameroon, emerging as title favourites, will be top Group A standings with 6 points. Ethiopia will fight to salvage at least a point in the tournament, facing.
And that's all we had for you tonight. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, with more sports stories. Do have yourself a peaceful night. My name is Karen Kibet, but the broadcast is not yet over, as I do hand you back to Tom and Purity for more.
Karen Kibet smiling in the style of a mile per hour.
Margaret Express, thank you for the sports update, and that brings us to the end of Prime Edition this Monday night. Susan Thuku is our sign language interpreter, and I'm Purity Museo.
I'm Mboya. We'll be back tomorrow. Good night. God bless.
Good night.